message? What's your message to China today?
Conflict or confrontation. In the past 2 years, there have been more than 180 incidents of Chinese aggression against U.S. aircraft in the Indo-Pacific. And, of course, the ramped up military activity in the South China Sea. If that does not count as veering into confrontation, then what does? And did you issue any warnings to Xi against continuing that behavior?
Well, first of all, none of it did end up in a conflict, number one. Number two, you may recall I did a few little things like get the Quad together, allow Australia to have access to new submarines, moving in the direction of working with the Philippines. So our actions speak louder than our words. He fully understands.
And because of the news of the day.
Teka lang, mga utol. Ayun na, mga utol, no? Yung mga pangyayari, inisa-isa doon sa tanong. Yung mga pangyayari sa Indo-Pacific. Okay? So lahat naman daw yun natugunan niya ng maayos. Ni President Joe Biden, yung mga pangyayari. Kasi, di ba, ilang beses na rin naman naggumawa ng dangerous maneuvers ang Chinese government o yung particular, yung Air Force, China Air Force, no, hinarang yan sa ere, yung aircraft ng at saka sa kahit sa katubigan. Hinarang na rin o challenge na rin ng China itong United States diyan sa Indo-Pacific. Pero yun na nga, gaya ng sabi ni President Joe Biden,
mga karunungan, kaalaman, teorya, kasaysayan, hiwaga at mga bagong tuklas. Alamin natin.
Para sa mga hindi nakakaalam, mga utol, nagkaroon na ng bilateral meeting ang presidente ng Amerika na si President Joe Biden at presidente ng China na si President Xi Jinping. Kagaya nung nakita nyo sa intro, mga utol. At dahil doon, syempre, ang mga Pinoy, kapwa natin Pinoy, nagtatanong kung ano-ano nga ba ang nilalaman na nasabing meeting na ito ng China President at ng United States President. So, ito po ay mismong press conference ni Biden after ng bilateral meeting nila ni President Xi Jinping ng China. So dito ay dinitalye niya kung ano-ano ang napag-uusapan o ano ang napag-usapan ng United States at ng China. Kasama nga ba dito ang dispute o usapin sa Indo-Pacific, partikular dito sa West Philippine Sea. Yan ang ating alamin, mga utol, mismo sa pahayag ni President Joe Biden. Ito na po yung mismong kabuuan ng kanilang napag-usapan. Pinorward ko na kasi, pero game na, mga utol.
South China Sea. We discussed all three of those things. I gave them names of individuals that we think are being held, and hopefully we can get them released as well. No agreement on that. No agreement on that. I also stressed the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Straits. It's clear that we object to Beijing's non-market economic practices and disadvantage American businesses and workers, and that we'll continue to address them. And I named what I thought a number of those were. I welcome the positive steps we've taken today, and it's important for the world to see that we're implementing the approach in the best traditions of American diplomacy. We're talking to our competitors, and the key, and just talking, just being blunt with one another, so there's no misunderstanding, as a key element to maintaining global stability and delivering for the American people. In the months ahead, we're going to continue to preserve and pursue high-level diplomacy at the PRC in both directions, to keep the lines of communication open, including between President Xi and me. He and I agreed that each one of us could pick up the phone, call directly, and would be heard immediately.
Yun, mga utol, yun yung paglilinaw, no? Para naman maiwasan o ma-ensure ang peace and stability, meron na silang direct communication bago pa mag-escalate yung issue. Kunyari, may hindi pagkaunawan sa isang rehiyon. So, kailangan nilang magtawagan. So, malinaw na malinaw yan. Isa yan sa mga kanilang napagkasunduan. Diba? Pero mamaya, syempre, may insight tayong sasabihin dito. Balikan muna natin.
Each one of us could pick up the phone, call directly, and would be heard immediately. And that's, now I'd like to be able to take some questions, if I may. And I'm told that Dimitri of the Financial Times has the first question.
Question and answer na.
Thank you. And as an Irishman, I apologize for bringing the rain.
Well, holy God, I wouldn't have called on you if I'd known that. No, I'm teasing. Go ahead, fire away, Dimitri.
President Biden, given that America is playing a key role in two major global crises, in Ukraine and in Gaza, Does that alter your previous commitment to defend Taiwan from any Chinese military action? And did Xi Jinping outline the conditions under which China would attack Taiwan?
Look, I reiterate what I've said since I've become president, what every previous president of late has said, that we maintain the agreement that there is a one China policy, and that I'm not going to change that. That's not going to change. And so that's about the extent to which we discussed it.
Nice one.
Next question, sorry, was Bloomberg.
It appears, among other issues, that your agreement with President Xi over fentanyl will require a lot of trust and verification to ensure success in curbing those drug flows. I'm wondering, after today and considering all that you've been through in the past year, would you say, Mr. President, that you trust President Xi? And secondly, if I could, on Taiwan, you and your administration officials have warned President Xi and China about interference in the upcoming elections. I'm wondering what would the consequences be if they do, in fact, interfere with elections?
Well, I had that discussion too, made it clear I didn't expect any interference, any at all. We had that discussion since leaving. Look, do I trust? I trust but verify, as that old saying goes. That's where I am. And, we're in a competitive relationship, China and the United States. But my responsibility is to make this rational and manageable, so it doesn't result in conflict. That's what I'm all about. That's what this is about. To find a place where we can come together and where we find mutual interest that, but most importantly, from my perspective, that are in the interest of the American people. That's what this is about. And that's exactly what we'll do. We're in a situation where we agreed that fentanyl and its precursors will be curbed substantially, and the pill presses. That's a big movement. They're doing that, and by the way, I guess I shouldn't identify where it occurred, but John, I know two people near where I live. Their kids literally, as I said, strange, they woke up dead. Somebody had inserted in, whether the young man did or not, inserted in a drug he was taking, fentanyl. Again, I hope you don't have any experience with knowing anyone, but this is the largest killer, people in that age category. And, I guess the other thing I think is most important is that since I spent more time with President Xi than any world leader has, just because we were vice presidents. His president was President Hu. I'm not making a joke. President Hu and President Obama thought we should get to know one another. It wasn't appropriate for the president of the United States to be dealing with the vice president. So we met. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 68 hours of just face-to-face, just us and a simultaneous interpreter. So I think I know the man. I know his modus operandi. We have disagreements. He has a different view than I have on a lot of things, but he's been straight. I don't mean that it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's just been straight. And we, as I said, the thing that I find most assuring is he raised, and I fully agree, that either one of us have any concern, Mr. Ambassador, any concern about anything between our nations or happening in our region, we should pick up the phone and call one another, and we'll take the call. That's an important progress. I'm embarrassed. I think it's CBS, but I can't remember who is CBS. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yung tinanong siya nung tungkol sa trust, nagtitiwala ka pa ba diyan sa mga sinasabi ng China o partikular kay President Xi Jinping? Pero yun nga, yung sagot niya, hindi niya naman sinagot ng direkta, pero masyado daw straightforward si President Xi. Kasi nagkakilala na sila nga naman nung parehas pa silang vice president. At sinabi rin yan mismo ni President Xi Jinping nung kanilang bilateral meeting mismo, mga utol, para makita ninyo, ilalagay ko yung link ng description sa description, yung link ng video na yon nung kanilang bilateral meeting. Okay? So hindi na ito usapin ng trust, no? Nasa competitive sila na antas. Pero ang mahalaga, ang importante, meron na silang direct line na communication. Kung sakali man may komplikadong issue, pwede nilang papag-usapan bago pa nga lumala. So yun ang maganda. So anong masasabi nyo dyan? Pa-comment na lang. Ituloy na muna natin. Naantay ko yung sa Asia. Hindi to, sa Pilipinas, sa West Philippine Sea.
We continue to stress the need to ensure competition with China does not veer into conflict or confrontation. In the past 2 years, there have been more than 180 incidents of Chinese aggression against U.S. aircraft in the Indo-Pacific. And, of course, the ramped-up military activity in the South China Sea. If that does not count as veering into confrontation, then what does? And did you issue any warnings to Xi against continuing that behavior?
Well, first of all, none of it did end up in a conflict, number one. Number two, you may recall I did a few little things like get the Quad together, allow Australia to have access to new submarines, moving in the direction of work with the Philippines. So our actions speak louder than our words. He fully understands.
And because of the news of the day,
Teka lang, mga utol. Ayun na, mga utol, no? Yung mga pangyayari, inisa-isa doon sa tanong. Yung mga pangyayari sa Indo-Pacific. Okay? So lahat naman daw yun natugunan niya ng maayos. Ni President Joe Biden, yung mga pangyayari. Kasi 'di ba, ilang beses na rin naman naggumawa ng dangerous maneuvers ang Chinese government o yung particular yung Air Force, China Air Force, no, hinarang yan sa ere, yung aircraft ng at saka sa kahit sa katubigan. Hinarang na rin o challenge na rin ng China itong United States diyan sa Indo-Pacific. Pero yun na nga, gaya ng sabi ni President Joe Biden, hindi ba tumugon ako dyan? Pero hindi ako nagsalita, pero tumugon ako. Nagpadala ako ng Quad, binigyan ko ng access sa Australia. So, isa lang ibig sabihin daw, pinaparating ni President Joe Biden. Kung sakali man na sila ay hindi tutupad sa mga napag-uusapan, hindi naman pwedeng wala akong gagawin. Hindi po yun stated ni President Joe Biden, pero implied if you read between the lines. Okay? So anong masasabi nyo, mga utol? Feeling ko, okay yun na nakapag-usap sila ng yung China President at US President. Nang sa ganon, hanggat maari ay maiwasan yung conflict nila ay maiwasan dahil nga may direct line of communication na sila, may iwasan dahil makakapag-usap sila ng maayos. So, hindi mabilis lalala. Pero parang ang sinasabi ni President Joe Biden hindi rin naman imposible na may mangyari pa din. Kahit nakakapag-usap kami. Okay? At alam ng isa't isa yan. Kumbaga, nag-aabangan lamang sila. Ano sa palagay nyo, mga utol? Pa-comment na lang. Ituloy na muna natin, ha?
Sir, I do have a question about the idea of raid on the Al-Shifa Hospital as it tries to contain and take out the Hamas operative that is there.
Hamas na to.
This week you also said that we must protect hospitals. So when you weigh the target against the number of civilians inside the hospital, is the operation underway justified?
Well, look, we did discuss this, by the way, but we can't let it get out of control. Here's the situation. You have a circumstance where the first war crime is being committed by Hamas by having their headquarters, their military, hidden under a hospital. And that's a fact. That's what's happened. Israel did not go in with large number of troops, did not raid, did not rush everything down. They've gone in, and they've gone in with their soldiers carrying weapons or guns. They were told, let me be precise. We've discussed the need for them to be incredibly careful. You have a circumstance where you know there is a fair number of Hamas terrorists Hamas has already said publicly that they plan on attacking Israel again, like they did before, to everything cutting babies' heads off to burning women and children alive. And so the idea that they're going to just stop and not do anything is not realistic. This is not the carpet bombing. This is a different thing. They're going through these tunnels. They're going in the hospital. And if you notice, I was mildly preoccupied today. I apologize. I didn't see everything. But what I did see, whether I haven't had it confirmed yet, I am asked my team to answer the question. But what happened is they're also bringing in incubators. We're bringing in other means to help the people in the hospital. And they've given the doctors and, I'm told, the doctors and nurses and personnel an opportunity to get out of harm's way. So this is a different story than I believe what was occurring before with indiscriminate bombing. What do you got? Washington Post. I think that's right.
Washington Post. Tatanong.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, couldn't see in the light.
Mr. President, Israel's war in Gaza more than 11,000 Palestinians just for a month and
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I didn't.
Israel's war in Gaza has killed more than 11,000 Palestinians just over a month and created a humanitarian disaster. Israeli officials have said this war could take months or even years. Have you communicated to Prime Minister Netanyahu any sort of deadline or time frame for how long you are willing to support Israel in this operation? Are you comfortable with the operation going on indefinitely, and is there any deal underway to free hostages? Thank you.
Yes, no, working backwards, forward. Look, I have been deeply involved in moving on the hostage negotiation. I don't want to get ahead of myself here because I don't know what's happened in the last 4 hours, but we've gotten great cooperation from the Qataris. I've spoken with them as well a number of times. I think the pause and that the Israelis have agreed to, it's down to, I'm getting too much detail. I know, Mr. Secretary, I'm going to stop. But I am mildly hopeful. I'm mildly hopeful. With regard to when is this going to stop, I think it's going to stop when Hamas no longer maintains the capacity to murder and abuse and just do horrific things to the Israelis, and they still think that, at least as of this morning, they still thought they could. I guess the best way for me to say it is that I take a look. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, acknowledges they have an obligation to use as much caution as they can in going after their targets. It's not like they're rushing in the hospital, knocking down doors and, pulling people aside and shooting people indiscriminately. But Hamas, as I said they plan on attacking Israelis again. And this is a terrible dilemma. So what do you do? I think that Israel is also taking risks themselves about their folks being killed and one-to-one going through these hospital rooms, hospital halls. But one thing has been established is that Hamas does have headquarters, weapons, materiel below this hospital, and I suspect others. But how long it's going to last, I don't know. Look,
perfect answer.
I made it clear to the Israelis that to Bibi and to his war cabinet that I think the only ultimate answer here is a two-state solution that's real. We got to get to the point where there is an ability to be able to even talk without worrying about whether or not we're just dealing with, they're dealing with Hamas that's going to engage in the same activities they did over the past, on the 7th. So but I can't tell. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell you how long it's going to last. But I can tell you, I don't think it ultimately ends until there's a two-state solution. I made it clear to the Israelis, I think it's a big mistake for them to think they're going to occupy Gaza and maintain Gaza. I don't think that works. And so I think you're going to see efforts to bring along, well, I shouldn't go into it anymore because that's been things I've been negotiating with Arab countries and others about what the next steps are. But anyway, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Ngayon mga utol, no? Maganda din naman talaga pinaka-solusyon dyan, two-state solution. Para mag-coexist sila. Yun na lang talaga yung pinaka-paraan, no? Kasi dati nang ginawa yan, dati na sinubukan, ngunit hindi nangyari. Pero para lamang matigil yan, masyado ng deep yung root, no? Yung ugat ng digmaan na yan, masyado ng malalim. So hindi niya nga daw alam, hindi niya rin alam kung kailan titigil o gaano kahaba pa ang lalakbayin hanggang hindi sila pumayag sa usapin ng two states. Okay? So, there's Palestinian people and there's Israelis. So, maghati sila, doon pa lang. Mangyayari, maari, kapag ginusto nila, parehas na tumigil na. So, anong masasabi nyo dyan mga utol? So, yung Indo-Pacific na pag-usapan. Pero kasi ang issue talaga ay yung Taiwan. Okay? So, pwede nilang mapag-usapan na maayos, hindi niya naman dinitalye, pero alam natin, nakasama yon sa usapin. So malamang, ang Pilipinas nakadeklara na rin. Pero just the same, mga utol, hindi pa rin natatapos dito sa pag-uusap na to dahil marami pa silang dapat pang ayusin ng China at United States, no? Pero isa lamang ang nililinaw dito ni President Joe Biden na meron na silang komunikasyon na direct line, no? Na kapag may problema, itatawag sa kanya at may problema rin ng United States, tatawag kay President Xi Jinping. That way, mas mabilis marisolba yung isang sitwasyon kung sakali mang meron. Okay? So, particular yan sa buong mundo. Pero talaga, yung girian ay nandito sa Indo-Pacific. So, malamang puro yun ang pinag-uusapan. Ngayon, malamang, ganun din yung sinabi ni President Joe Biden. And, ano rin naman nasa, kumbaga yung stage nila ng pag-uusap nasa preliminary pa lang. Okay? Hindi ibig sabihin na may tiwala sila sa isa't isa, ngunit pwede nilang panghawakan yung mga bagay na kanila na pag-uusapan. So, anong masasabi nyo mga utol? Pa-comment na lang. Hanggang doon lang muna. Maraming salamat. Ito yung mula sa The White House. Maraming salamat sa inyo. Muli ako sa Target Achilles in behalf of the Real South Pride Production. Ako nagpapasalamat sa walang sawa niyo pagsuporta. Kayo mag-iingat. Keep safe. God bless. Saludo po ako sa inyo lahat. Maraming salamat po.